Dexter Close eviction of the 27th of January 2015. So, Michael, could you just give me a bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, I'm a HGV driver.
Okay.
I've been doing that for 30-something years. My wife works in a school in London. We've lived in Luton for 7.5 years now.
It's almost as long as me.
Yeah, we paid for, well, half the property price when we moved here.
Okay.
Everything was going sweetly until I had an accident at work. Put in an insurance, because I was off work for 1 year and 3 months.
Okay.
Put in an insurance claim. That's all gone by the wayside. The mortgage company, who I thought were the mortgage company, put in possession claim. We obviously fought it. We said, you know, this is what's happened. The judge was me.
Under what grounds did they put the repossession claim in for?
Arrears.
Okay.
But having said that, subsequently when I look at the form that they've did it, it's actually for tenants and not mortgage payers.
Okay.
So there's a bit of a something wrong with the form there.
Yep.
We then appealed that decision and got another district judge who said, "Oh, come back in 2 months, bring the arrears down, and we see what happens." Well, we paid 4,000 quid and cleared off some of the arrears out of our savings.
Acting in good faith, obviously.
Yeah. Yep. They still weren't happy with that and wanted to go for possession. Having said that, the days that the court hearing was, they then changed the firm of solicitors.
Okay.
So we had a different firm of solicitors turn up, or an agent from them. We go into court and they had no paperwork or anything else. And we had ours. So the judge adjourned it. We then get a letter from them saying that the arrears have gone up double because the interest rate that we're being charged has gone up double. We were on 2%. It's now
4%.
No, it's now 7.54%. So it's gone up.
A triple. Yeah.
Triple.
Yeah.
So we said, well, all these arrears are the wrong rate. It's nowhere near that figure.
And did they ever send you any paperwork notifying you that the percentages were going up?
Nothing at all, because their excuse, when we came back before the only judge who I had any faith in, a district judge White, turned around and said, "Did they send you?" I said no, and he asked their agent, and their agent said no.
Okay.
He said, "Well, then you can't change the rate if you haven't notified the borrower. How's he to know?" And they said, "Oh, well, we've just taken over the case and it's been transferred to us, the other firm."
We know nothing. Yeah.
So in the meantime, I was sent anonymously 4 pages from a sale document. And I thought, what's this? You know, I thought there was no return address and there's nothing on it at all. And I thought, oh, someone's playing games with me here. So I did a bit of checking with it, and it was a mortgage sale agreement for Accord Mortgages.
Okay.
Which had sold their whole portfolio of mortgages. It was only, as I say, 4 pages. It was the sale date and a couple of pages at the front. But the 2 very interesting pages were the ones at the back. So they sort of like, I wrote off to them and said, "Has our mortgage been sold?" And they wrote back to me and said, "We don't sell mortgages." Well, I have the proof here, they do sell the mortgages. So I said, "Oh, right, okay." With that, there must have been warning bells sounded by them, because then they issued possession proceedings again in 48-hour notice.
Okay.
So we trotted off to the court again, and we had the same judge. This is why I say he's the only one I've had any faith in at all. He called us in and we sat down, and he said, "Oh, you know, how's the state of play?" And I said, "Well, it's been very good." I said, "But I want to bring the court's attention to this mortgage sale agreement. They've sold all their assets all their guarantees, everything, to this company brass number 1. So he said, "Oh, give it to me." And with this, the barrister stands and said, "That's irrelevant. It's nothing to do with it."
Well, it's everything to do with it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is why I get to it. So the judge looks at it. He turns round. His computer is on his right-hand side, so he starts tapping in. And with this, the barrister says, "Oh, I'll ask for an adjournment to study these documents." He said, "No, let me look." He looked at something on the screen, turned back round and said, "Right, I'm going to adjourn this hearing. I want an officer of the company, and make no doubt it's going to be an officer of the company, to do an affidavit to confirm or deny whether you have sold these mortgages."
That's one thing I don't like doing, affidavits.
Yeah. Well, it gets better. He said, "I want it signed and done within 21 days.
Okay. And when was this?
June 2013.
Okay. So like, what, a year and a half ago now?
Yeah.
Yep.
We've never had it. But he's put on his order that they're supposed to do it because these mortgages have arguably been sold to another party.
Okay.
So the barrister says, "Well, no, that's not the case. My understanding of these documents is that it's only a small number of their mortgages." So I said to him, "Well, look at the last 2 pages that were sent. It has a list of mortgages. Mine's on there, but if you turn over the page, it has a list of exempt mortgages. My mortgage isn't on there."
So proving that they'd sold your mortgage.
So
yeah.
No, the interesting part, there's only about 10 or 11 mortgages on there.
Okay.
And I said, "Well, if you're telling me they've only sold a small part of their mortgages, why only list 10? There should be thousands listed there then. If you've got 30,000 mortgages, as you say you have in your accounts, and you only list 8, so where's all the others gone?" So anyway, he said, "No, I'll adjourn it 21 days. You have this letter, then you'll come back into court." I have never seen that judge again.
Okay.
He listed it before him. He said, "This matter comes back before me, and we'll deal with it then." We have never seen him again.
Okay.
He's still at the court.
So who do you deal with now at the court?
We've had judges who are supposed to be one name. The order comes in another name. The possession order was signed by Deputy District Judge Allnet. The order came District Judge White.
Okay. And that was the order from the other day, was it?
Yeah,
repossession
that's
order.
the repossession order. When we brought this up before the court, when we had our hearing to have it suspended, that was before a judge, Deputy District Judge Sims.
I've heard that name before.
Yeah, the order comes from Simmons.
So basically what they're doing is they're getting one judge to make the order, and then they're getting another judge to sign off on that order. The classic switcheroo sort of thing.
Well, if the order is given to you in your hand, and you see the copy put back in the file, you expect whoever does the paperwork to send you that same document. That's never happened.
Okay, so one judge makes the order and then another judge forwards it on to you. Yeah. Okay.
So then we had that, and we came up against a very obstructional judge when we did our application to suspend. We turned round to him and said, "This matter is for a judicial review." "Well, I've got no note." I said, "Yes, you have. Look at my file."
Okay.
He didn't have my file. And my file would, because Luton,
so you're up in front of a judge
who doesn't have your paperwork.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Well, he said to me, "Do you realise the amount of work that Luton County Court has to go through and do?"
It's not your problem.
well, that's the excuse he gave. And I said, well, I physically handed it through your letter drop box. I said, and I'll be on the CC cameras doing that. And he said, well, I'm not going to rule on that. He said, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's what you say. I said, well, there's the evidence.
Yeah.
If there's a judicial review, you can't override that. You can't say anything.
But you did anyway.
He did anyway.
Yeah.
He granted a possession order.
Okay.
So we appealed, and we went before a circuit judge, Hazel, I think Hazelwood or Hazel, who, shall I say, was not very helpful in the context that she was dragging it out for as long as she could on the Tuesday. So there was
that was the day of the eviction.
The day of the eviction. So there was no time to go, as I said to her, well, I want to appeal your order, to go to the Court of Appeal and do the forms. So you had no time to do anything.
Yeah.
So she then turned around and said to me, well, you know, you've better hurry. This is at 11:30.
Yeah. And the eviction was planned for 12.
For 12 o'clock, yeah. So I said to her, well, you know, that's a crazy scenario. You know, you've obviously been listening to me. I've said to you all this sale document, and all you've turned around to me and said, well, I haven't given you a notice of assignment. And I said, well, that is crazy. I said, you know, it should be done as a regular course, that you know there's an appeal going before the judicial review. You should grant
at least an adjournment,
or an adjournment. She wasn't having any of it. My gut feeling is, going through the system in the last 3 weeks, they were going to get this house,
no matter what.
No matter what you said or what you put in front of them. When we went before the property tribunal, there's an old saying, put your brain into gear before you open your mouth. I never showed them the full list of documents that I had until that hearing. Then there's 3 other witnesses, well, there's 4 other witnesses that were at their hearing. We went through the planning application and everything else, the registration. And then she said, oh, you've brought securitisation. What does that mean? And then I brought those files out of my case.
So you've got someone presiding over a case that doesn't even know what the case is about.
So I give her a copy of the file, and she said, oh, it's quite large and it's quite big. I said, yeah, but you should only be interested in the first 6 pages of the mortgage sale agreement. The rest we can argue about later on. I said, it quite clearly states there, the issuer or the seller sells to the issuer, which is Brass and Accord Mortgages, all its rights, benefits, interests now and in the present, future, and all the assets of the company with full title guarantee.
Okay.
Now we've heard everywhere saying, well, they can split the beneficial and equitable interest.
But you've got documents proving that
they can't.
Everything goes,
Yeah, the whole lot goes, you know. So we asked her again, well, can you show me in that document anywhere that they can split the beneficial and equitable interest? I'm not here to give you legal advice. I said, I'm not asking for legal advice. You're making your decision. I'll give you the keys now. You show me anywhere in that document where they are allowed to do this, because my understanding and your own land registry understanding is full title guarantee means precisely that. There is no encumbrance, no splitting, no nothing. I said, that's what the Land Registration Act states. Oh, well, we'll go on to your other point. I said, all right, we'll go on to section 23. Yes, it says owners...
This is section 23 of the mortgage agreement?
No, section 23 of the Land Registration Act, which is the other thing that is cockeyed. Because it says there, the owner's powers in relation to a mortgage or charge. When you read that, the owner's powers in relation to the mortgage or charge is the person who owns the house. So they've written it wrong. And she looked at the barrister and said, my God, do you realise what he's saying? If I rule in their favour, do you know what's going to happen to the mortgage market?
It's going to collapse.
Oh, it goes through.
Which is exactly why they don't want to listen to you.
And she literally, the look of shock on her face said it all. And I said, well, that's precisely what would happen. I said, you know, these people aren't the right people sitting here today. The bondholders are. Yeah, if I own a mortgage or I own someone, let that person come to me and say, they've been paid not once, but 3 times for these mortgages.
Yep.
So the second and third payments of that should be coming to me. I'm the note holder, not them.
As it states in the land registry,
yeah. So she said to me, well, I can't rule on that. So I said, all right then. So she said, my judgment will be in 21 days. When we get the judgment, we have 3 lines about securitisation, which state I gave her incomplete documents, and she had an affidavit from a Mr. Richard Driver, who works at head of financial structuring at Yorkshire Building Society. Not even an officer of Accord Mortgages.
As demanded in previous court cases,
So he wrote that it's his understanding that my mortgage wasn't in the portfolio. So I wrote back to her and said, well, you got that out of time for the hearing. You've got it after the hearing and you've accepted it because it's in your judgment. I said, but you had a full list of the documents, so how come you're saying now that you had incomplete documents? Is it a type error? I never got a reply back. Nothing.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it really.
No. Right. I'm more than adamant that this company has sold all its assets in these portfolios. They have done £2.7 billion worth of sales. Can anybody turn around and tell me what they've got as security, the bondholders?
Yeah. You know, as it states in the land registry, that you know that it's the people that own the property should be getting that money.
Well, it's. We asked her, and something that I found really stupid was that we asked her, as the judge of the property tribunal, how long does one party have to register their interest once they've purchased it? I don't know, but I'm sure it's in the Act. That's what she said. So we said to her, no, it's 6 months. So they did this in 2011. The reason you can't now rule in our favour is because you will have to turn around and say, sorry, you can't register the charge because it's out of time. So you're between a rock and a hard place. She was not very happy, and quite rightly we weren't. But at the end of the day, we then appealed to the upper tribunal, which was Judge Cousins, and we said to him, show us, just show us once where they could split the equitable and beneficial interest, and what security has the bondholders got. I mean, I don't give a monkeys about the bondholders. They're all tax fiddles. That's what they're based for. I said, you know, show me where in this document they could, and I'll go away. I said, because I know it says full title guarantee, all their rights, benefits and interests. So they've sold the whole lot.
Yeah, so basically you have no claim once you've sold it.
I said, if I sold my car to my auntie and then went and said, oh, sorry, I want it back, and I'm not giving you anything, is that justice?
Yeah, that'd be criminal.
Yeah, and he said, well, we're not selling cars. I said, well, that's the same, you know, just to give you some inkling of, you know, how stupid this sounds.
Oversimplifying it for them,
And he said, well, I'll let you know. Well, anyway, we got his judgment back, and there was a no-no in that. He was just not... None of them can afford to allow this to show its head. Because if they did, it will absolutely crucify.
The thing is, they're doing this with thousands of people across the country every day. I mean, from figures I've seen, you get a few thousand people evicted from properties every day in this country, and default mortgages, when they take over, basically when they say you owe them money and then they evict you, I mean, you get a couple of hundred of those a day in this country.
Well, the interesting thing that we've subsequently, because of this case, been looking into was the investors' report that they have to do every month. Now, every month they term repossessions, and they'll have some numbers. This month it was 6.
Okay. That was just this specific company?
This is brass number 1. This is the Pacific company. So they've had 6 repossessions all over, up and down the country.
Yep.
And there's 2 figures there. What they got for it, and the amount they've returned to the borrower. How much do you reckon that is?
Couldn't think off the top of my head.
Nothing.
Okay.
Not one. And that's not in one, that is every single month.
Okay.
So, from figures in January through to this January, from last year, there's not a single borrower that's had his home repossessed has got a single cent from the company.
Okay.
How does that work out?
Yeah. I mean, as you stated previously, you've already paid half of the mortgage up front anyway.
Yeah. But,
so at least you should be entitled to that money back.
Well, the point is, they really screw everybody. Once they get their teeth into you, they are adamant that there's nothing left.
Yep.
You know, we had the agent at this repossession hearing turn around and tell us that our property was only worth $218.
Okay.
I said, well, that's very strange. I said, where did you get that figure from? He said, from the internet, this Zuma thing. I said, oh, okay, all right. So I went on to Zuma, and quite rightly, yes, 225, the house next door.
Okay.
Sold 3 months ago. So I said, well, your figures are cockeyed anyway.
Yep.
But the judge wasn't having any of it. I subsequently spoke to someone else who gave me a list of questions to ask the judge. Are you standing on your oath?
Yep, that good old one. Love that one.
What legislation are you using?
Another good question.
And what are the grounds for bringing this action?
Yep.
And there's 2 others which I've got written down there. I never had answers to any of them.
Oh, they don't want to answer those because they know they're acting illegally.
Oh, yeah. And the other one was, I can remember now, was, is this a private hearing?
Yep.
Or is it a public hearing?
Yep.
I don't have to tell you that. I said, well, I can tell you. I said, because if it was a public hearing, the door would be open.
Yep. For anyone to see what's going on.
Yeah, and if it was a public hearing, which it should be, people would be coming in and out. I said, but this is private, because the usher has to let us in with a swipe card.
Yep. So therefore, any judgment that's passed isn't really legally binding anyway, if it's a private hearing.
Yeah.
It's just it's a corporate hearing.
Me, well, I'm not going to answer your questions because they're not relevant. And I said, well, okay, that's it. Well, maybe irrelevant to him, but we have them on tape.
Yeah, okay.
So whatever he wants to turn around and say now, the tape.
Yeah, you've got evidence.
Say something totally different.
So what happened on the day of the eviction?
We were at court. We had half an hour to get home.
Yep. I was actually there when you turned up.
Yeah, they were there when we turned up. We then went indoors, tried rush round to get anything we could together to go with. We subsequently then had the police come. I went out and saw a sergeant who I will be making a complaint against.
Yep.
Who showed me the warrant. The warrant was totally bogus because the warrant was in the name of Optima Legal as the claimant.
Okay. Which is not who you've been dealing with up till now. Okay.
No, my mortgage company is Accord Mortgages. Optima Legal are the legal people.
So you've got a third party jumping in, acting on behalf of somebody else, basically. Yeah.
And also the stamp was not a Luton County Court stamp. because it should say Luton County Court.
Yeah, it should also be a raised seal.
Yeah,
Yep.
that is nothing. So he looks
Was
at
there
it.
any date of issue on that?
No date of issue on it, no signature from the judge, nothing.
Okay.
So
my understanding is warrants in this country, they have between 6 and 12 months to run, depending on the warrant.
yeah,
And how can you tell when that was issued, or how can you tell what time period that is if there's no date of issue on that in the first place? So they can basically
say anything.
Yeah, save that up for 3-4 years and then present you with it.
Yeah. So anyway, this officer was very in line with the bailiffs. He wasn't going to hear anything else about anything.
Yep.
So I kept questioning him and pressing him on it, that it's not a real warrant. And he said, well, I will take commercial and public liability for this document.
Which is a very big thing for him to have done.
And I said, well, fine, okay, let it be on your head. So I went back indoors. The guy, the locksmith, there was a couple of people, and these are people that have turned up, don't even know me from Adam.
Yep. Chrissy Morris and a few of the others, Paul.
Yeah. And I mean, I must say how gratifying it was to think that there was people willing to do that who didn't even know you from Santa Claus.
Well, I've had a Bailiff Watch Luton page, and basically there's a few response teams that Chrissy Morris is a part of, and I've actually been following that quite closely. And I now want to start something like that in Luton. And I've basically used your case as a springboard for that. And the amount of people that are taking interest in this is amazing.
The point is, we're heading for a financial crisis again. And that is going to come, whether it be 3 months after the election or the end of the year. We have been screwed to the ground, and there's no more to give. I mean, I spoke to our local MP. He came to see our company, and how wonderful we are and everything else. And, you know, you're doing wonderful. I said, well, hang on, we haven't had a pay rise for 5 years. In fact, my salary is 10 years ago. I was earning more than I am now. I said, I do 12 hours a day sometimes. I said, it's crazy. I said, we're not getting anywhere. You're lucky you've got a job. And I sat there and I thought, you know, this is just crazy. I said, well, all right. I said, what's going to happen when we have another financial crash? Because it's coming.
Well, you have them every 10 years or so, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, this one I think is going to be worse because we're going to be more affected by other people. There'll be other countries that have got our bonds and everything else. And when they start to go, they'll offload them. And that's how it'll start. It'll start another crazy crash.
So where are we at now with the eviction?
Well, they have the property all boarded up. We're living apart. We are now going back to look at the documentation and thinking of doing criminal prosecutions, especially against the police officer. He's next first on the line. And we also having someone look at the warrants that were Well, we didn't know what was happening here. But, you know, it could have been a very, very dangerous situation. I said, for who? Me or you? I said, because you're there to protect me.
I mean, I understand, the way I understand it, in common law and subsequent cases that have gone through the courts, whenever there's a dispute, a peaceful dispute, when bailiffs turn up for evictions, the police are not supposed to side with the bailiffs. They're only supposed to be there to prevent a breach of the peace.
Well, no one was breaking the peace.
Exactly. We're all acting quite honourably and quite peacefully.
Everybody was quite jolly, really. You know, it's really sort of like, it's the wrong word saying jolly, but they were a friendly bunch. You know, I couldn't see.
We were taking it in our stride, basically.
I mean, there was one guy who kept asking the officer, "Is that a real warrant?"
Yep, that's Chrissy Morris.
Yeah, he wouldn't answer him.
Yep, because he knew full well it was illegal.
Yeah, because if I kept saying that to you at the end, I would say, "Oh, for God's sake, yes."
Yep.
You know, but he could never mention those 3 words.
And that's the sergeant, yep, the higher up.
Yeah, that's all he kept on doing. I mean, they arrested a load of them and then let them all go again.
As soon as the bailiffs gained entry, we were all let go.
Yeah.
Yep.
What the hell was that about?
Exactly. The way I see that, they're actually assisting bailiffs, which they're not actually supposed to do.
They had no cause to even be there. And the bailiffs wouldn't have been able to gain entry because the police were moving people out of the way and arresting them for nothing.
The way what we got told by the sergeant was it was to prevent a breach of the peace, but then when he was pushed on it, he actually stated that he thought we might cause a breach of the peace at some point in the future, and that's why we were arrested. So basically, we were arrested as a pre-crime. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, my thoughts of the police now have gone totally out of the window.
Yep. I used to respect the police myself, but these days, the way they're acting...
Not now. This, I'm sorry to say, in my time of life, all that you thought was honourable and straight is nothing but crooked and corrupt.
It's all back to front these days.
You know, and that includes the police, the judiciary, where you see them, even on the telly, they're sitting there, and they're God-fearing men, you know, and women, and whatever they said, you could say, oh, that's the truth.
And the trouble is, with your case, because it's a private corporation hearing in the magistrates, you can't actually ask for any sort of jury trial or anything like that, because it's non-criminal.
Well, this is what we asked him for, a jury trial, and we turned around and said to him, well, okay, I want to be heard between, you know, had this matter heard before a jury
peers,
of 12 peers.
Yep.
Oh, I haven't got time for that. You know, and I thought to myself, okay, and that's when I then pressed him on the other questions, and we never got any answer at all.
So basically, the judges are just siding with the mortgage company and the mortgage holders. No matter what you say to them, they're just not listening to.
Because basically, if my case comes to fruition, or I know it will happen sometime this year, it's happening already in America.
Yep.
Because I was told about the cases in Missouri.
Yep. You got local people now saying that corporations can't come into their cities and towns and act in that way, and they're actually putting that into the statutes.
Yeah, well, no, they won a big legal case in a mortgage fraud.
Okay.
Now, in my particular case, the last hearing we had before the circuit judge, we turned around and we cited the Santander case in Ireland and stated that, you know, these people who committed perjury before, what's stopping them doing it again?
Exactly.
I've never heard of that case. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, it's in my folder, please look at it.
Yep.
She never had anything in her folder. So, again, where is the paperwork?
Yep.
I had to give her my copies for her to photocopy and give to the other side solicitor as well, because he wanted. In fact, she did a bit of a swapsy there. She took the originals and gave me back photocopies, but there's enough there for it.
That's a bit dodgy as well.
Oh yeah, I would not trust.
Because in common law court in this country, it's he who holds the original documents has all the power.
Yeah,
so
well, it's them that have got it now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But I mean, as I say, this will come to fruition. There will be cases that are going to break ground, be it mine or someone else's.
Which will then open the floodgates for everybody else to say, look, what's happening.
And her words that she said in jest, which is the saying, many a true word said in jest, what will happen to the mortgage market if I rule in their favour will happen. So then what did they do?
So I heard a few people on the day of the eviction saying it was over £110 that you were getting evicted for.
No, that's an extra charge that they wanted to add
So they wanted to add the charge just for evicting you.
For the time I'm wasting. And,
okay. So the actual eviction order was for the mortgage arrears.
Mortgage arrears.
Yeah.
But they wanted to add more.
For the fact that they wanted to evict you.
That they were going to evict me. And,
shocking.
And we were saying no.
Totally shocking. Okay, well, thank you for that,
That's
Michael.
All right, pleasure.
And I will make sure that this gets around all the social media sites and to the response teams, so people actually know what's going on. Are you actually up in court for a review or the judicial review?
Well, we were supposed to be having a judicial review, but we tried to get hold of the judicial review call, and it's like ringing Mars, because you just get a recorded message saying, please call again later, no one is there. Okay. So I've done them an email today.
So you've got no date set at the moment?
We've got no date set, and we've had no rejection.
Okay.
So they took our £140, and it's just been in limbo. Yeah. It's been in limbo since the beginning of December.
Yeah, I know they've done this to a few people over in Nottingham. Yeah. Recently, this guy's been trying to file with Leicester Court, Nottingham Court, and Birmingham Court. He's filed in all three, but then because they're not listening to him, he's like, well, okay, then can I have my money back, please? And they're just not listening to that either. No. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, at the last hearing before this Judge Hazelwood, or Hazelwood, Harclass, I think her name was, I did a promissory note.
Which I saw on the day that you were trying to hand to the bailiffs. Yeah.
Which I've got a copy of, and the solicitor's got a copy of, and the judge has got a copy of. And I said to her, I'm paying the mortgage off. Yep. This is the full amount of the mortgage.
Let me guess, they didn't have a clue what you were talking about.
She had an inkling, and she said to me, "Oh, have you had a copy of this to the solicitor?" And he said, "Yes, I've got a copy here." And what do you want to say on it? And he said, "Nothing. I can't say anything."
So he didn't rebut it. He didn't reject it in any way. Okay. No.
So I said to her, "Well, I'm telling you now, madam, that
mortgage is now paid."
To Lord Denning, that mortgage is paid.
Yep. Which you also tried to explain to the sergeant the other day.
Yeah. Oh yes, I said exactly the same to the police officer, and he admitted that they've got it in court. It's on tape that they had it in court. Yep. He knew about it, and so did the bailiffs. So no one can now turn around and say, we never had a copy, we don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so what do you plan doing going forward now?
Well, I'm waiting to hear back from one or two people in the organisation, Guy and
Guy Taylor.
Guy Taylor and Roger.
Two fantastic people.
Yeah, and we're actually looking now at doing criminal prosecutions against them. We've had a very good guy from Ireland also helping us, which is something which we've never had before. You know, for 5 years we've been doing this on our own, and every knock you get, you sit there and think, am I right? Yep. But it's something that you know is right, because they wouldn't be putting up such obstacles if it wasn't.
Well, I'm just wanting to let you know that we are here for you.
Okay.
You're not alone, and if you could basically pass me your details, let me know when you're next in court, and I promise I'll turn up.
Okay, all right, thanks very much indeed. It's a pleasure.
Okay, well, that was an interview with Michael Grant-Sinclair from the Dexter Close eviction on the 27th. Thank you very much for watching.